Okay, so we are live. This is episode number 3 of the Genuine Minute. And this week we have the awesome, beautiful guy, Mr. Ben Walker. Ben, give us a little bit about yourself. What do you do?
Appreciate it. Thanks, JB. I'm excited to be the third one.
The third one. There you go.
Wasn't number one, but I'll take two.
Number 3 is good. You're on the
I'm
podium still.
yeah, it's on the podium. So I'm in the property management industry, obviously, as you know. I specialize in residential management, HOAs. I'm getting into a little bit more on the management side of the real estate, more than anything else. So I have my own company, my home management group that I just started. Been doing it for some time, but decided to branch out on my own recently, and can obviously use your support. And
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're being a little bit humble. I think you're one of the best, if not the best property manager in St. George, because every time I've sent a client to you that needs a rental or something short term, I feel like you've always come through, at least for our clients, which is a huge important. And I
appreciate
think it's a good leeway here to kind of jump into and say, if you as clients listening to this or watching this don't have a good connection with a property management company or need a realtor that does, hit us up, because Ben right here, he's a legend. So Ben, what kind of led you into this side of real estate? Because obviously there's a lot of real estate sides. There's commercial, residential, vacation rentals, property management, like what you're doing. What led you here?
Well, it's family. Honestly, I grew up in Oregon, and my grandpa owns a few title companies. I worked for him. He had a couple rental properties that I managed on the side while I was working for him in the title industry. Didn't like title. I saw your other podcast with McCray.
Yeah.
He's a better man than I am. So
It's funny. McCray makes title look fun. And
yeah,
it's really not that fun, but he does a good job of making it look fun for sure.
I respect those guys, but at the same time, it wasn't for me. So I got a little bit of experience in the residential side. I actually managed apartment complexes for student housing when I was in college, and that just kind of snowballed into what I'm doing now.
Okay. So what are some of the hardships? So you're obviously doing your own thing. I guess let me rewind here. What is it that you do exactly on a day-to-day basis? So obviously you're a property manager, but what does that kind of entail for you?
So I tell people that I'm a human punching bag.
Okay.
That's a
Human punching bag. I'm gonna put here Ben Walker, the human punching bag.
that's a good headline for you. Basically, we're the problem solver, right? Like, we want to take
Right.
the stress out of your life. And if you look up any property manager in town, that's like their big marketing thing. I know the top 5 people in town all say that,
Right.
relieve the stress. And that's the goal. We're problem solvers. We're people helpers, so on a day-to-day basis, it's really different. And that's kind of what I like, is every day is a little different. There's little tasks, there's different obstacles you got to figure out. But at the end of the day, you're just helping, make sure that tenants are taken care of and that investors' properties are being managed as they should be.
And I promise I'm not being rude, but I'm going to take some notes on some of this stuff just because I feel like that might be something I want to use down the road, the human punching bag. Because on my side too, I feel like there are some days where I feel like I'm the human punching bag. I'm the middleman here, having to give the bad information. Now, some of those like menial, like little tasks that you're handling for people, obviously they can add up for anybody that's self-managing. um, what does your company do that takes away some of that pressure for people? Because managing a property can be quite stressful, right? Especially self-managing it, dealing with tenants, dealing with vacancies, dealing with, oh, what else is there to deal with on a day-to-day?
Oh yeah, maintenance request, vacancies, turnovers, violations, disputes. You know, I found, just yesterday I talked to a gentleman who owns a fourplex, and he's having a hard time releasing the control of it to a manager. But with the property manager, we've obviously got processes and protocols in place so that we can streamline all the little nitty gritty things of it. So
Okay.
it makes it a lot easier. We have the connections to make things happen quicker. So day to day basis, I'm running applications, background checks, stalking people on social media to make sure they're good tenants,
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
moving people in, coordinating, and making sure things ran smoothly. So
Okay, so you have a pretty strict process when it comes to vetting
yeah,
tenants. Now, let me ask you this, and this may be a good question. Obviously, there's a slew of property management companies. Um, I'm biased. I think you're great. I think you're amazing. But give us a quick pitch. What kind of sets you apart from other property management companies?
well, that's the thing is there's a lot of different managers in town, and I know probably 90% of them personally. And I have very few bad things to say about any of them. I think there's a lot of great people out there, and I think there's a lot of good managers out there. A lot of management really has to do with personality. One thing for me, and one thing I've always respected about you, obviously, you helped me get into the house I'm in. Yeah.
Yes, we did. Yep. It's been
So
we've been in there almost what,
2 years.
going on 2 years now?
Yeah. So,
Jeez, time flies. This
yeah.
time flies.
So responsiveness, I think, is one thing that I really pride myself on, and that's something that I really appreciated about you. Just the responsiveness of the day to day. The quick questions, the turnaround. I also
Well,
think
I don't know if our wives love that so much, but
no, my wife hates it.
but
Even my
I
2 year-old's
like
like,
it.
stop working.
Yeah, same. She's like, why are you always on your phone? It's like, I got to get back to Ben. I got to answer his questions.
So that's a big thing, and there's some responsive managers out there. I really pride myself on professionalism, and then I really pride myself on, like you say, genuineness. I really care about not just the investor, but also the tenant. So my home management group, my whole business model is treating it like it's my home for everybody involved. So I'm looking at it from an investor standpoint. If this was my home, how would I want it to be managed? And I'm treating it as a tenant. If this was my home that I'm moving into, how would I want to receive it? I don't want to walk into a nightmare where the house is destroyed. And you hear that all the time, where somebody's moving into a house. Moving's stressful for everybody involved. So those are the three things that I think set me apart. And again, there's really professional companies in town. There's really, nice people and genuine managers out there.
Yeah.
There's a few that are responsive that will probably keep up with me. But even then, I think the true care about, if you're really caring about who you're working with and you're really there to serve, that's what I think sets me apart.
Awesome. I love that answer because it is true. And I feel like it's a blessing and a curse for one, good real estate agents, where it's like, I really care. I want this person to get through this house process. I want them to have their appraisal come back. I want the inspection to go good. And you put yourself in their shoes. And like I said, blessing and curse, you're like, oh, wow, I am stressed because I am feeling this person. But at the same time, it comes across as like, wow, we care. That really, at the end of the day, we care about what happens to our clients.
It's hard because as a manager, my responsibility is towards the homeowner. That's my fiduciary duty. I got to take care of that. But at the same time, each homeowner is different. So, property management company A, B, and C, they're all great. But you as an owner, you might like B because of this, C because of that. So what I really like to do is make sure I know who my client is so that I can find the tenants that will fit their needs. Every house is different, every landlord's different, and they all have a different criteria.
Right.
So it's hard because I've got to keep to the laws and I've got to make sure I'm taking care of who I'm taking care of. But at the same time, it's stressful because you do, want to help.
Right.
Everybody.
You definitely do. And I think that's it's definitely a little bit of give and take there as far as like how much emotional stress that you can take home every day, So we kind of hit on it for a minute there. But what would you say to somebody that wants to self-manage their property? Obviously there's downsides to it. There's upsides to it as well, because we don't work for free. And then I would never expect anybody to work for free. But if somebody came to you and they're like, I'm thinking of just self-managing, what would you say to them?
Great. Some people like it, some people don't. Like, obviously I'm in here for a reason. And my opinion is most of the tenants, just like, selling a house, most of the transactions are going to be seamless and smooth.
Right.
So you're going to rent the house 5, 6 times and it's going to be perfect. But that 1 out of 10 is going to be a nightmare, and you're going to go, crap. What do I do from here?
I can attest to that.
So
I can definitely attest to that.
It's really hard for investors, especially first time investors, to let go, because it's a big investment,
Right.
especially in today's housing market with prices. It's a big investment. You want to make sure it's being taken care of properly, and you don't trust anyone else, and that's fine. But in the same breath, what sets us apart is, we're going to keep you as posted as you'd like to be. So if you want to help with maintenance, if you want to help with decision process and finding applicants, I could keep you as posted as you like. But if you are 100% against it, I mean, it's something that everybody does. I feel like I don't think there's been an investor I've dealt with that hasn't managed themselves first,
Right.
and then realized, crap, I don't want to do this anymore.
It's not worth the headache at the end of the day. No, I think that's a great answer. And I guess a good follow-up question to this would be, so for the real estate agents that watch, what is your relationship with real estate agents, as well as like how they can refer property over you, or like how does that work? Do
Real
you?
estate agents are, honestly, my bread and butter, what brings business in. And, I'm young, I've dealt with a lot of them. So there's a lot of big time agents like yourself that know how responsive I am and who I am. And they're the ones bringing me most of the business. And I know that, and I respect that. So in the same breath, I try to prioritize getting them back the deal. So with the relationship that they bring to me, I need to make sure that they're getting that reciprocated.
Right.
It's not a one-way street. So if you bring me a rental, I'm going to try to bring you a sale. If JD brings me John, I'm not going to, if John ever gives me insight that he's planning on selling again, I'm going to make sure you know about that.
That's awesome, because I feel like that's a fear for a lot of agents, is that they're letting go of some of that control, and it's scary, because it's like, well, I want this relationship. I don't want anybody to take the relationship from me. I want to manage that relationship and be that guy. So it is scary, and it's good that you do that for your agents.
You have to know that I'm an auxiliary of you, that I'm going to represent the JD brand or the agent A and agent B's brand. But at the same time, I'm not going to take any money out of your pocket, So I'm going to want to make sure you're up to date. And there's a few I could tell you. I don't know how comfortable you are with me saying names here without talking to them first, but there's a couple agents where they're involved as much as I am. I'm emailing owners and CCing the agents so that they know, and that they can tune in their advice and say, hey, I like this, I don't like that. What do you think about this bed? Have you seen it done this way? So an agent to me is a part of the family. If you want to be involved, but at the same time, most agents refer them to me because they don't want to be involved.
Right.
They just want to know that it's being taken care of in a professional manner. And then in the same time, that their clients aren't gone, that they're still their clients.
It's nice to know that we can take off one of the hats and pass it along to somebody that's actually going to be responsive and not just like run with it, or they will run with it, but not run away with it, I should say. So well, that's great. So another big question I have is, can you give us some advice, or maybe some future investment advice? Oh, we got the dog in the back here. He's coming to say what's up. On finding good cash flowing properties. That seems to be the question right now. What are we looking for? Are we looking in certain areas that you're seeing are doing really well right now? And is there a minimum amount of ROI that we're looking for, return on investment, a certain percentage that people are going for right now?
Back in the day, 5-10 years ago, I was thinking, when I first got into it, you're looking at a 7-8% cap is what you'd like. Realistically speaking, that's not going to happen in Southern Utah unless you're finding a multifamily. And multifamilies, I'm sure you're well acquainted, are rare and in between. And when you find them, there's 40 offers,
Yeah. And plus you got to fix them up.
Half of them are cash, and then you have to fix them up. So multifamily is hard, but that's your best cap rate. Um, I'm going to probably say something contradictory to what most managers believe. Uh,
Hit me
I've
with it.
found I've found a lot of success in larger homes for short-term leases. And I know there's not a lot, I can't think of anyone off my head. I guess there's one company that specializes in a little bit of short term, but I think if you want a good cap rate, you're gonna have to find the demographic that's willing to pay. Because the housing market's so inflated right now, and with interest rates, particularly this last couple months. If you buy something at the moment, it's gonna be really tough to
Yeah.
cash.
Yeah. We're talking for second homes or investment properties. We're talking high fives right now.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and it's, and with the top of the price range, it's gonna be tough to get a 5-6% cap.
Yeah.
So what I found is most successful is I've got a couple investors that are buying nice single family, nice homes, bigger neighborhoods like Little Valley, Washington Fields. Those two neighborhoods come to mind first, or even Green Springs, somewhere that's growing. You buy a nicer home, you rent it on a short-term basis. Because I can't tell you how many people call me daily that are saying, "Hey, I need a 6-month lease while I build."
Right. That's
And
huge.
they would rather pay $200-300 more a month to have that freedom.
That's like
Because
really good advice, actually. I feel like that's a market that nobody's really talking about too much right now.
nobody's going at it. And I think short-term 6-month leases with, if your target demographic is those that are building, I think that's where you're gonna get your highest cap rate. But that comes back on me as a manager going, crap, in 6 months, I gotta release this,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, and then that begs a question or raises a point where, okay, we're going to be doing 6-month leases on this bigger house. That's a lot of work. Like the turnover, the cleaning, all of that. That's a lot of work for, especially for somebody like me, where it's like, okay, I'm okay with a year lease because I do my check-ins quarterly, if
Mhm.
I'm self-managing, and it's easier. But when you go to 6 months, there's more turnover, there's more
Quick.
application, there's more process. It's a lot. So I think it's really important that you're partnering with uh, a property management company that can actually handle that, because that's not easy all the time.
And
Um,
again, every investor is different. So some investors are all about the long-term goal, some are about the short term. Alex, for example, I know who, him and I are good friends. I know you love Alex.
yeah, Alex is great.
And he's more about the cash flow. So you throw 6-month lease option, you throw pet friendly, you can get creative with what you offer that other people won't. And that's gonna return a few dollars here and there, and it all adds up.
Yeah, no, that's huge. I love that, because those areas are, one, they're super desirable, and two, people will pay, to be in them for as long as
You
they
have to
can.
go in with the mindset that this house is for that reason. It's not my retirement home.
Right.
And you have to go in with it's just an investment. And then you have to buy it, when you're buying a house, you gotta know what target demographic you want. You don't go buy a duplex expecting to get a retired couple, or a 2-story,
Right.
expect them to find some snowbirds. So it's all about making sure the agent knows. And again, I love talking with agents and saying, "Hey, what's your client want? What's their budget? What's their ideal tenant? You better look for this type of house." And that just
Yeah.
makes my job so much easier when everybody's on the same page, agents, investors, and then myself.
So for the people that don't know, when you go to hire a property manager, what are some of the fees or things that they should expect to pay for?
Everybody in town is pretty similar. We all charge a monthly percentage off your gross. Most of them, it ranges from 8 to 10%. And generally speaking, the more units you have, the smaller fee you pay.
Okay.
There are hidden fees, so each company's different. Some companies charge set fees, some charge leasing fees, some charge inspection fees, some charge documentation fees. Everybody charges an application fee, but that usually is passed on to the applicant themselves, which is a topic that I'd love to talk about, because I can't tell you how many times I get yelled at over the phone, because it's stressful for a tenant, who's applying to 300 homes, paying 30 to 50 bucks an application, and then just getting denied, or
Yeah.
passed on. So there's a lot of fees involved, but the big scary one is that percentage monthly.
Okay. No, that those application fees seem to be a common topic of discussion for a lot of people, especially because how competitive the rental market is, especially in our area. I mean, most people are filling out 5 to 10 applications and paying a $30 to $50
Yeah,
application
that's
fee every
great.
time. It
That's
goes up.
great. And they think that, as a manager, we're just pocketing that money, but the software everybody uses in town, they charge for
Right.
that background check, and then the software company charges for the
Yeah.
process.
It's not like you guys are pocketing the application fee.
So we wash, but the tenants are out, and it's stressful for them. But I can't tell you how many times somebody's like, "Hey, I've got 750 credit and I make 200,000 a year," and I go, "Great, so does half the other applicants."
Yeah.
So it's tough market for a tenant for sure.
Oh, I would completely agree with you there. Now, what can people expect when you're managing their property as far as like they like not necessarily a down payment, but like first month's rent, last month's rent, deposit? What do you usually tell your clients you're managing the property for and the tenants that are applying?
So again, each manager is different. So just speaking for myself, I charge the first month's rent and then a deposit, which is equal to the rent. Unless you have a pet, then I usually charge a pet deposit, and I base that off the size of the home and how much I would project carpet replacement to be. So I've had pet deposits from $500 to $3,000, which adds up, but it is a fully refundable deposit. So the generic answer: first month's rent and a deposit. And if you're moving in mid-month, it's only half month's rent. You're paying that prorated.
Are you seeing anybody do first month's, last month's, and a deposit right now?
I've seen that a lot. And I just, again, when you're talking the house prices and the rental prices, I don't think it's realistic for our market. And I think you're going to deter a lot of people. Again, it would be great to find the person who just sold their house and has the cash, or somebody that's making tons of money. And it is an indication of being smart if you have the savings. But at the same time, if a smart person has 20,000 in the bank, they're not going to give you 10 of that.
Right.
If they can avoid it.
Right. No,
So
for sure. They'll be investing that somewhere else, maybe buying
I
a
feel
rental that
if
you
you're a good
manage.
tenant, you have to think like they think, and a smart person's not gonna, if you have the option of house A and B and they're pretty similar, and it's not your forever home, you're gonna go, I'm gonna save this extra money now because money now is more important than money later. And as a manager and as a landlord, if you're charging deposit and last, you can't touch that money anyway. It goes into the escrow account.
Just sits there. And you have your own escrow account for all of that?
Mm-hmm. And I preach to everybody, like, even tenants who are like, I'll pay the whole year up front. And I say this to tenants and I say it to investors. My goal is not to find somebody that's going to miss a rent payment anyway. So if I'm doing my job, it doesn't matter if you're paying the year up front. It doesn't matter if you're paying that last month's rent.
Right.
Because I'm going to find the tenant that's responsible and that is respective and that's going to pay that regardless.
That's literally all we can ask for. Like that's it. Like we talked about, where being communicative and responsive, but then also finding that perfect tenant for us. I think that what makes a good property manager for sure.
Yeah.
The question we always get is, at least for me, I get it probably daily. Hey, can you find me a vacation rental? Or hey, what's going on with the vacation rentals down in St. George? What's your opinion on vacation rentals right now? It's a hot topic.
Okay, yeah, just full transparency. Sorry for pissing everybody off that hates me now after this, but I think vacation rentals are a rich man's game.
Yeah.
I think personally, I would not buy one unless I had 50, 60, 80, 100% down.
Okay.
If you're going on alone, I think it's a lot more stressful because you have your highs and your lows. It's not as steady. So from an investor standpoint, that's my 2 cents. Okay. I also don't love investment, vacation rentals for a homeowner, because half of them are zoned, and in the CCNRs, it's required to use a company.
Right. And what that company usually takes 30-40%.
Yeah, 30 to 35 is average. And every vacation manager I've spoken to say that's low. They're like, I'm feeling like I'm getting hosed, and they're taking 35%. But from an investor standpoint, I want to leave my manager liable. So there's communities, I can mention several, that you have to use this company if you own that. you have to use this one. And I'll say well, maybe I shouldn't say it, but there's one community that's like 60% of the vacation rentals are owned by the manager.
Yeah.
And you have to use that manager to be in
Right.
that community.
It's a
So
conglomerate.
yeah, so I'm thinking as an investor, first I want to make sure that I could fire my manager. You know, like if you're not doing a good job, I want you gone.
Right.
Second, if you have claim to all of them, you're making the same amount of money regardless if my unit's rented or not.
Right.
As a manager, you know, so it's a little stressful. So for me, I think first you want to buy it with lots of cash.
Yeah.
Or all cash.
100% cash. I feel like that's the best way to buy a vacation rental. I think if you're financing it, you're gonna get hosed, especially with interest rates.
It's a rich man game because it's gonna make you way more money than a long-term investment, but it's gonna be highs and lows, and it's gonna be a lot harder if you're flowing a mortgage.
So to kind of reference this, 100% cash, maybe finding a place that's zoned for it, that maybe not in an HOA or like a big single family home, kind of throwing it back to like the single family talk we just had on short-term rental.
That would be good. There are some HOAs that are fine. It's just you want to make sure the HOA, in my opinion, is not zoned where you have to use that one manager.
Yeah.
And again, the other managers that landed those deals, good for you. You know, like congrats, that's awesome. I'm jealous. But from an investor standpoint, I'm thinking, man, if you suck, I want to fire you, and you can't.
Right. And it's important for anybody watching or listening that you hire a real estate agent that knows how to find these details. And if they can't, then make sure they have a property manager friend that they can be like, hey, Ben, can I do this? Because I've done that a time or two with Ben. Is this something we can do here? Okay, good.
Yeah, you want to make sure that you're not, because it's a big investment. You don't want to get halfway through, have earnest money go hard and go crap. Because then you're right on the line. You've gone so far, and you're going to not want to back out, and then you're going to regret it later on.
Yeah, we don't want to make
that owner who has 60% of the units. His units are always filled, but yours aren't.
Right. Our job is to try to mitigate those mistakes for people. So that's awesome. So we're trying on the Genuine Minute here. We're trying to talk obviously about real estate first, and we're trying to be informative. Obviously, you're a property management company, but you're growing a business right now. You're on a seemingly new venture with your new company. What are some of the hardships that you faced doing this, and what's some advice you can give to somebody that, one, may want to start a property management company, or two, just a business in general?
Well, for me, my hardest thing right now is getting out there. You know, I've been in the industry 10 years, almost 11 now, you know, 7, almost 8 in St. George. So I feel like I know what I'm doing at this point. It's not the knowledge base that I'm struggling with, but you know, I've been on my own for very little at the moment.
Yeah.
It's for me, it's getting out there, letting people know. And then at that point, making the change, because in the industry, it's hard to find contracts when everybody's in contract.
Yeah.
You know, most property managers are going to make you sign a year contract that's as good as the lease, if not as good as long as the tenant's in place. So it's not like you can go through and be like, hey, come to me, come to me, come to me, because everybody's essentially coupled up. So for me, the hardest part is getting out there, letting agents know that, hey, this is an option, you know, and most agents like yourself have somebody that they trust.
Yeah.
So at that point, you got to, you know, prove your worth, you know.
So you're hitting the ground running right now, trying to grow this business, word of mouth, lots of lunches, lots of talks.
Most of which are new people. So like I have relationships with several investors that, you know, I get their Christmas cards, but they're with someone else, right, you know, and I can't go after them per se. So most of my clientele at the moment is someone new that I'm creating that new relationship with. Yeah. So it's fun.
That's exciting.
It's super exciting. And I think down the road, maybe things will start trickling in quicker. But at the moment, it's just, for me, it's letting people know that I'm here, you know, and that I'm ready.
So if you were to say like brand spanking new, you went and you start a property management company, what's like 2 things that you could tell somebody, or 2 or 3 things you could tell them, be like, do these 3 things, you know, to try to grow your business, grow your name?
First thing, you want to make sure you have the right software in place.
Okay.
There's hundreds of softwares out there. And I think you got to make sure you have the right one, because each one's different and each one's difficult. So you got to make sure you're learning the right thing and starting off on the right foot. Uh, Step two would probably be making sure you're making the right acquaintances, specifically with agents. And then step three is you just got to be yourself. Because like you said at the beginning, there's so many managers out there and they're all good, and they all have great aspects about them. There's few that I would say this person's way better at me than this. He's way more charismatic, or he's way more professional, or she's way better at that. But it's really a personality thing, and you got to make sure you are being who you are. You got to be true to yourself, and you got to make sure that you're selling yourself.
Yeah, I love that.
Something else.
I mean, it's the same thing with real estate agents. I mean, I think there's 4,000 agents in Washington County.
And growing.
And growing. And it's not a hard thing to get your real estate license, but it is a hard thing to be a good real estate agent. The one that's set up, that doesn't chase the money. A lot of these newer agents chase the money and not the relationship. They chase the commission. And it's hard to, as a consumer, find a good agent.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You got to make sure that they really trust you.
Yeah. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. So just a last question I'd like to ask is, so we're busy, right? We're slammed all the time. We have a lot going on. How do you keep a good balance between running your business and your family life, making sure your business isn't running you? What do you do?
Was it Jeff Bezos that said there's no such thing?
I'm not sure. I think so. There's no such thing. Yeah, I think it was.
I think that's right. For me, it's all just scheduling. One of the critiques that I learned, I'm really, I get really upset when I'm late to something. I'm very obsessed about punctuality and making sure I'm committed and doing what I'm, fulfilling a promise. So it's all about scheduling, making sure you're not double booking yourself, making sure you're arriving on time, making sure you're giving yourself enough time and not taking on too much. I've had a couple people reach out to me already that say, hey, I have this project or this project, can you take it on? And I've denied business. I'm new, I want business.
Yeah.
And most people probably be like, you're stupid, take on whatever you can get. But for me, I'm going to take on what I know I can handle and what I want in my business so that I'm not overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And so that I'm not getting the, 10 o'clock call when I'm supposed to be with my kid, or I'm not supposed to. So I think it's a lot about being selective in the clientele you take on, being selective in who you represent. And then at the same time, just scheduling to make sure. So every day, from 7 to 8, I'm playing Hot Wheels with my 3-year-old.
Yeah. Making sure you have that time set apart, maybe phone off.
And I never have the phone off, and he'll tell me, Dad, stop working, Dad, stop working. But at the same time, a quick text, I'll be right back with you, that's not a bad response, So it's something hard, something I'm learning to juggle. But I think really if you're scheduling yourself and you're not taking on something you can't handle and knowing your limits, I think that's where it really.
I think it's one of those things that are ever evolving too, where it's
and your schedule's always changing, right? Like my kid just started doing soccer. And I was like, great, now Saturday morning, I gotta cross that off.
Yeah, no more Saturday mornings. Okay, I love that. Scheduling, time blocking, making sure that you have it set aside, that you're punctual. And again, taking it back to being responsive. I think a quick text, like you mentioned, is always sufficient.
Not taking on something you're not capable of doing. You have to know your limits.
Yeah. Ben Walker, the human punching bag. I love that. I'm gonna circle that right there. That's awesome. Well,
guest visitor, your dog, right? What's your dog's name? I forget.
His name's Ace. He's hanging out in the hallway down there.
Our guest visitor.
Yeah, guest visitor, guest appearance over there. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about this. If somebody wants to get a hold of you about property management, what's the best way for them to contact you or get information from you? And obviously we'll put all your links in the video below, so they
on my website or shoot me a text, whatever's easiest.
Okay. What's a good number for you?
Office phone is 435-250-6000. You can text that number.
Okay.
You can call it, whatever you'd like to do, or you can always email or jump on our website. So
I love that.
You're good.
Perfect. Well, I don't have any other questions for you, Ben. I'll let you get back to your busy day.
You're the man. I appreciate being
Great.
on.
Thank you, man. And we'll talk soon.
Thanks so much.